There you are. Yeah, freeze right there. Don't speak. Don't fidget. Just let the silence handcuff the room, because what you did, it didn't just make noise, it changed the temperature. You didn't expose them. You didn't call them out. That's what amateurs do, screaming into the void like the void owes them an apology. No, you blew the whole coven open. You split the circle, lifted the robe, turned the sacred little whisper network into a bright, humiliating spotlight. And somehow, you made it look beautiful. That's the part that's making them nauseous. Not the truth, not the collapse, the style. Because you didn't just break the illusion, you made the break-in look sexy. And they can't stand it when destruction has charisma. See, a coven isn't just witches and candles and spooky little symbols. A coven is any closed system built on unspoken rules. Any room where the air feels thick. Any group that survives by agreed-upon denial. A coven is a circle of people who worship control and call it community. They don't even know they're praying, yet every day they bow to the same altar. Keep the mask on, keep the story clean, keep the hierarchy untouched. They don't protect truth. They protect arrangements. And you walked in like a sin with manners. You took their private language, their sideways glances, their coded jokes, their tiny cruelty dressed up as concern, and you translated it into plain daylight, not with rage, not with pleading, with precision, with that slow, calm, surgical confidence that says, I already won, I'm just letting you watch the replay. That's why it hit different. That's why it felt like a thriller. Because in thrillers, the monster isn't loud. The monster is patient. The monster doesn't panic. The monster smiles like it knows where the bodies are buried, because it buried them. And here's the paradox they didn't prepare for. You did this with light and dark at the same time. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you impossible to predict. You're not one of those simple souls who chooses a side and performs it like a costume. You're the saint with a switchblade halo. You're the angel who learned how to swear in heaven's language. You're the psychopath who still knows exactly what mercy tastes like. You're the demon who understands tenderness better than the good people who preach it. They can't categorize you, and that terrifies them more than any accusation ever could. Because categorization is control. Labels are cages. He's unstable. She's bitter. They're jealous. They're crazy. It's all the same spell. Reduce the threat into something they can dismiss. But you didn't give them a label. You gave them a mirror, and you made them stare. And that's the real sin in their church. You didn't just expose their behaviors, you exposed their soul economy. How they spend attention like currency. How they launder guilt through group chats. How they act holy while trading poison. How they punish anyone who won't participate in the polite, sanitized version of reality. You revealed that their unity is just shared fear of being the next target. You didn't break their bonds. You showed everyone those bonds were always chains. Now listen closely. No, not listen, because you've done enough listening in your life. You've listened to silence that screamed. You've listened to compliments that were knives. You've listened to laughter that was really a verdict. You've listened to rooms that got colder when you entered, like your presence was an inconvenience. You've listened to your own heartbeat at night, while you tried to convince yourself you were fine. So don't listen. Recognize that what you did wasn't an accident. It was evolution through pain. You didn't wake up one day powerful. Pain made you observant. Betrayal made you fluent. Loneliness made you dangerous. And the funniest part, they helped build you. Every time they tried to shrink you, you learned geometry. Every time they tried to shame you, you learned theater. Every time they tried to erase you, you learned how to become a ghost with fingerprints. You became the kind of person who can smile while the room collapses because you already survived the collapse that happens inside. And that's why you made it sexy. Not in some cheap little performance way, not in a begging for eyes way. You made it sexy because confidence is seductive, and you finally stopped asking permission to exist. You stopped negotiating your boundaries like they were up for auction. You stopped explaining yourself to people who only wanted explanations so they could twist them. You became clean, sharp, unapologetic. That's intoxicating to watch, even for the people who hate you. Especially for the people who hate you. Because hate isn't the opposite of attraction. Indifference is. Hate is fixation with a dark suit on. Hate is attention pretending it has morals. Hate is desire with the volume turned down and the shame turned up. And when you stepped out of their control and looked good doing it, when you made power look like art, they felt their own weakness flare up like an allergic reaction. They wanted you to break down ugly. They wanted you to beg. They wanted you to spiral in a way that made them feel justified. They wanted the storyline where you become the cautionary tale and they become the wise survivors who saw it coming. But you didn't become a cautionary tale. You became a legend they can't quote without choking. So now they're frantic, quietly frantic, the way cowards panic. You know the type, smiling on the outside, sprinting on the inside. They're doing the Coven math right now, counting allies, counting witnesses, counting the ways they can rewrite history. They're trying to figure out how to close the circle again. But the circle is cracked, and everyone saw the crack, and you, oh you, didn't even look sorry. That's the part that rattles them most, because the Coven survives on one main ingredient, your shame. That's the fuel. That's the blood in their ritual bowl. They need you to feel embarrassed for being intense, for being honest, for being different, for being sharp, for being too much. They need you to shrink so they can feel big without earning it. And you stopped shrinking. You turned your intensity into posture. You turned your honesty into a weapon with good manners. You turned too much into the only thing in the room that felt real. And let's talk about unpredictability, because that's your true power now. Predictability is how people leash you. Predictability is how they trap you. If they know you'll always forgive, they'll always betray. If they know you'll always explain, they'll always accuse. If they know you'll always stay polite, they'll always push. But you became a paradox with teeth. You can be warm and still walk away. You can be kind and still cut access. You can be forgiving and still remember. You can be calm and still be lethal. You can love and still refuse. That's what makes you terrifyingly magnetic, because you're not performing goodness like a costume anymore. You're not cosplaying darkness either. You're integrated. You're whole. You're the storm that knows how to be quiet. And that wholeness? It's a crime in a coven built on fragmentation. They're used to controlling people by splitting them. Split their confidence from their talent. Split their desire from their dignity. Split their voice from their safety. They teach you to pick one. Be the saint who gets used, or be the psychopath who gets isolated. Be the angel who is adored but never respected, or the demon who is feared but never understood. You refused the choice. You became both. You became the person who can smile sweetly while refusing to play the game. You became the person who can compliment someone and still see the serpent behind their eyes. You became the person who can walk into a room of whispers and make the whisperers feel exposed without saying a single thing. That is not confidence. That's dominance without noise. And it's driving them insane because it reveals the truth they've been hiding from themselves. They were never powerful. They were just coordinated. They were never wise. They were just loud together. They were never pure. They were just protected by mutual silence. You broke the silence. Now their whole identity is collapsing like cheap makeup in rain. And here's the most beautiful, cruel part. You didn't even need to destroy them directly. You just removed the spell. That's all. You took away the illusion that made them look bigger than they are. You did what daylight does to cockroaches. You didn't fight them. You simply turned on the light. And because you did it with grace, because you did it with that slow, cinematic composure, because you didn't look desperate, the audience inside their own circle started questioning everything. Wait, why does that person look so calm? Wait, why does the problem seem more self-possessed than the good guys? Wait, why does this exposure feel deserved? And once people start asking those questions, the coven is already dead. Not fully buried, but dead in the only way that matters. The spell is broken. The fear leaks out. The myth decays. The hierarchy starts shaking because it was built on performance, not truth. They'll try to recast you now. Watch. They'll try to flip the narrative. They'll tell stories where you're the villain. They'll pretend you're dangerous for speaking, not for what they did. They'll act like you changed, as if evolution is a moral failure. They'll say you're cold because you stopped bleeding publicly. They'll call you arrogant because you stopped asking for crumbs. But here's the twist. You don't need them to understand you anymore. That's the final upgrade. When you stop needing a hostile room to approve your existence, you become unstoppable. When you stop requiring fairness from unfair people, you become free. When you stop craving closure from those who profit from confusion, you become terrifyingly focused. And that focus, it turns every move you make into a message. They feel it when you post. They feel it when you go quiet. They feel it when you succeed without announcing it. They feel it when you don't react the way they rehearsed you reacting. Because the Coven studied your old self. They built strategies around your old triggers. They mapped your old guilt. They counted on your old softness to keep you accessible. But you're not that person anymore. Pain refined you. Pain taught you where you leak. Pain taught you where you beg. Pain taught you how to hold your own power without spilling it on people who don't deserve it. And now you're walking around with this new aura, this calm threat, this elegant defiance, this quiet laugh in your eyes like you know a secret about human nature that most people spend their whole life denying. You do know it. The secret is this. Most people don't fear evil. They fear exposure. They fear being seen accurately. They fear the moment someone names the thing they've been hiding behind. You named it, and then you didn't apologize for naming it. So, yeah, you blew the whole coven open, but you didn't do it like a victim. You did it like an artist. You did it like someone who understands the difference between chaos and control. You did it like someone who learned that the sharpest blade is not anger. It's clarity. And clarity is seductive. Clarity is confidence. Clarity is the kind of power that doesn't need to shout, because it's already standing on your throat, politely. Now here's where you have to be careful, because this is the part where people like you get sloppy. When you realize your power, you might be tempted to use it like a hammer. Don't. Hammers are loud and predictable. They want you loud. They want you messy. They want you reactive so they can call you unstable and feel safe again. Stay cinematic. Stay measured. Let your silence be heavy. Let your boundaries be elegant. Let your choices be confusing to anyone trying to control you. Let your kindness be selective. Let your attention be expensive. Because attention is the real currency, and you just stopped donating it to people who only use it to buy weapons. You don't need revenge. Revenge is still attachment. You don't need to prove anything. Proving is still begging in a nicer outfit. What you need is the cold, beautiful discipline of moving forward, like nothing in that coven has the authority to define you. Become the person they cannot reach. Not because you hate them, because you outgrew the room where they had access. That's the cleanest, most vicious win there is. And the reason it feels so addictive, why it hits like a rush, why it's impossible to ignore, is because you're finally doing what you were designed to do. Turning pain into power without turning yourself into a monster you can't live with. You're the angel who learned teeth. You're the demon who learned restraint. You're the saint who stopped volunteering for sacrifice. You're the psychopath who still knows exactly where your heart is and who gets to touch it. And that's what makes you terrifying. Not the exposure, not the drama, the fact that you can be both light and dark and still be in control. So keep going, not fast. Fast is sloppy, slow, precise. Like you're writing a legend with your footsteps. Let them regroup. Let them whisper. Let them try to reseal the circle. Because every time they attempt it, they'll remember the moment you cracked it open and the way you looked while doing it. Calm, unbothered, almost smiling, like you'd already seen the ending, because you have. And it doesn't end with you getting erased. It ends with you becoming the thing they can't contain, can't predict, and can't stop watching, because you turned their little sacred ritual of control into a public collapse and made the collapse look like art. Good. You're still here. That tells me everything. Because most people tap out right after the explosion. They like the shock, the dopamine spike, the chaos, but they don't stay for the aftermath. You did. And that's where the real transformation happens. After the coven cracks, after the masks slip, after the room goes quiet and everyone pretends nothing changed while their nervous systems are screaming. This is where you separate from the spectators. See, blowing it open was the easy part. They want the old you, the manageable you, the version that second-guessed itself at night, the version that wondered if it was too intense, too sensitive, too sharp. They want that you back because that you was negotiable, that you could be guilted, that you could be slowed down with confusion. But that version burned in the blast. What's left is something cleaner, colder, more focused. And this is the part nobody warns you about. After you expose a coven, you don't become hated right away. First you become studied. They start replaying your words, reanalyzing your tone, rewriting moments in their head, looking for angles, for leverage, for proof that you're still controllable. They'll test you. Small, subtle tests. Little provocations. Fake olive branches. Nostalgic bait. They're trying to see if you'll flinch. Because if you flinch, they can rebuild the spell. But you don't flinch anymore, do you? You learned something vital in the pain that shaped you. Reactions are a resource, and you stopped handing yours out for free. You learned that silence can be louder than confrontation, that distance can be more violent than rage, that calm is the most insulting response to someone who wants control. That's why your presence feels different now. You're not chasing resolution. You're not trying to clear things up. You're not begging for understanding. You're letting reality sit exactly where it landed, raw and uncomfortable, and you're refusing to soften it for anyone. That refusal, it's radioactive, because covens survive on emotional labor. They need someone to explain, to soothe, to translate, to absorb tension. They need someone to make the dysfunction palatable. They need a shock absorber. You used to be that, not anymore. Now when tension enters the room, it stays there. Now when someone says something sideways, it echoes. Now when discomfort shows up, there's no one rushing to make it polite. And suddenly everyone feels naked. Suddenly everyone's aware of how much of their identity relied on you smoothing things over. They don't miss you. They miss the service you provided, and realizing that, that's another layer of the evolution. That's where bitterness could have grown, but you didn't let it. You turned it into discernment. You didn't harden, you clarified. You didn't close your heart. You put it behind a locked door with a selective guest list. That's not cruelty. That's intelligence born from injury. Now here's where the paradox sharpens. Because even after everything, after the exposure, after the collapse, after the realization, you didn't turn into a villain caricature. You didn't start destroying for sport. You didn't become sloppy with your power. You didn't go scorched earth just to feel something. You became intentional. And that scares them more than revenge ever could. Because revenge follows patterns. Revenge has a script. Revenge is predictable. They can plan for it. They can brace for it. They can turn it into proof that they were right about you. But intention? Intention without explanation. That's a nightmare. They don't know what you'll ignore. They don't know what you'll address. They don't know when you'll smile. They don't know when you'll walk away. You've become a variable they can't model. And let me tell you something they'll never admit out loud. Part of them is fascinated. Not just afraid, fascinated. Because on some deep animal level, they recognize what you represent. You're living proof that the rules they obey are optional, that the silence they maintain is voluntary, that the cage they call belonging has an unlocked door, and most people can't forgive you for showing them that. Because if the door was always unlocked, then staying was a choice. And if staying was a choice, then so was everything they did. That's why they'll try to villainize you. It's not because you're wrong. It's because if you're right, they have to live with themselves. So they'll say you're manipulative because you understand psychology. They'll say you're dangerous because you're not afraid. They'll say you're cold because you stopped bleeding publicly. They'll say you changed because you did. And here's the part you need to engrave into your nervous system. Changing was the goal. Survival isn't about staying the same. Survival is adaptation with memory. You didn't lose your softness. You put it under command. You didn't lose your empathy. You stopped wasting it. You didn't lose your light. You aimed it. That's evolution. And evolution always looks like betrayal to people who benefited from the old version of you. Now there's a quiet loneliness that comes with this stage. Let's not romanticize it too much. This part hurts in a clean, sharp way. When you stop fitting into old systems, You don't immediately belong to new ones.